Ladies and gentlemen, the following is scheduled for one fall. It is time for That Way Cool Wrestling Show!
Hey everybody, Danny J here from DJB Productions Network. It's another episode of That Way Cool Wrestling Show. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button down below. Hit the notification bell for all the different shows that are popping up. And as always, share, send comments down below too. We want to hear from you. Talk about the show that we have here. Maybe make some suggestions for some new shows. We want to hear from you, the fans. We always love the support. So by all means, check that out. But make sure you're subscribing and make sure you're getting your friends to subscribe as well. Plenty of shows on here, but That Way Cool Wrestling Show, we're running hard, we're running strong, and we have a big show for you today. What's going on today? We're going to be talking about AEW. We're going to be talking about the NWA. We're going to be talking about Tesa Blanchard and her Impact Wrestling World Title push. But I'm not doing it alone. I have with me today special guest, returning guest actually, former ECW, WCW, WWE superstar, and star of the motion picture The Church, Big Vito LoGrasso. Vito, welcome once again back to That Way Cool Wrestling Show.
Danny J, thank you very much for having me. I greatly appreciate being back. Merry Christmas to all the fans out there. We have an action-packed show. Everybody's going to like this. We have a subject to everybody. Danny, why don't you lead it off and go into the first hot topic of tonight?
Exactly. AEW, which has turned out to be, I think, what a lot of traditional fans thought it would be. And I think it's much to the demise of those hardcore WWE fans. It's a hit. Overall, it's a hit. It's doing really great in the numbers. The numbers have kind of gotten a little bit more modest now that we're weeks in. I'm showing that ratings-wise, they're actually starting to NXT is matching with it rather than being destroyed by it. And that was to be understood. I think we all knew that was going to be the scenario. New product, everybody's going to check it out first. Now everybody's starting to make the decision as to what they like. Numbers are still very strong on both programs because NXT is still a great program, but AEW is still putting stuff out there. There's a difference in the product, and we're going to talk about that today. There's a lot of great stuff with it. A lot of stars that you and I both know, stars that you've worked with in the past with before, some stars that I've actually worked with as well. And the product itself, it's first, and we've said it before, but this is such a reminiscent of WCW, being on Turner Broadcasting.
Yeah, you want to know something, Dan? If the wrestling business would learn how to share and not run head to head, everybody could have a piece of the pie, but people are greedy. And you know what the one thing is that the WWE, NXT, they felt the heat and they felt that they were in competition.
Yeah.
If you notice, they brought all their stars to bring the show up to speed it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Now the people watch to see who from the main roster is going to show up.
Right.
Now, I mean, you're talking about a product that wasn't developed and went on cold, had nothing in the can, and then you're talking about something that they've been doing for 10 years plus, being a developmental where they had to practice and now they're going on TV. I just think that it's funny, but like I said, if everybody would learn how to share, everybody could have $1 million rating.
Well, you know what? Billy Corrigan, owner of the NWA, said that exact statement, saying that there is no reason for anybody to just hold one chunk of it and that's it. Everybody can prosper. He made a very good point. If you stop trying to compete with the WWE, you will do fine. It's those who try to compete on that level with them, but you're talking funds or WWE and you're not going to do it. Okay.
Well, you know, when we had the back in the heyday, when you had ECW, you had WCW, and you had the WWE, right?
Right.
The ECW, we had our own cult following. We did just fine.
Right.
WCW had their steady 2 million fans, and WWE had their, I think it was $3 million at the time. If it didn't go down, I'm just throwing a ballpark.
Right.
There was something for everybody, but one person got greedy. He had to have everything, and he still has the same 2 to 3 million, if not less, viewers on their product today.
Yeah.
What did you gain? Absolutely nothing.
Well, you know, a monopoly is what destroys everything ultimately, and we've to nauseam have talked about this with the Monday Night Wars, and in the long run, we won in the short run. We did not win in the long run because wrestling took a nosedive once there was no other competition. And the WWE was resting on its laurels and saying, hey, nobody can touch us. But here's the difference, though. They put out a sports entertainment product. They do not put out a pro wrestling product, not anymore, and haven't for many, many years. So when you're looking at something like AEW, and you have these fast-paced matches with these guys that can really, really go, versus the traditionally slow, very monotone match that you get out of a WWE match, and understand why. They do that for a reason. They're controlling injuries. They're controlling their product down to the letter. As a safety factor, yeah, I understand it, and I completely get it. But you're taken away from the matches. You're taken away from the showmanship. And what ends up happening is that you get people that are drawn to AEW and watching guys like Hangman Adam Page, watching Dustin Rhodes, who in his 50s, that guy can still go like he's 20-something years old.
But did you notice, like, you made a comparison, right? You made a comparison. You said that they do the old-fashioned matches. But in those old-fashioned matches, they have more injuries and concussions than anybody else.
Yeah.
Seen anybody get hurt in AEW? You haven't heard about anybody getting hurt in Impact. You haven't heard anybody getting hurt in the NWA.
Right.
You haven't heard anybody else. But the WWE, for all their sports entertainment, seems to have the most injuries. Or are they the most reckless?
All right. Well, you know why I think that is? And Arn Anderson, if you listen to the Arn show, they asked him about AEW versus WWE. And the one statement he said, the WWE, an overly produced product. And that's where they're detrimental. They're overly produced in the sense that all their promos are the same pace, same tone. You don't get the Mean Gene talking to Roddy Piper, talking to the Killer Bees. You don't get that anymore because they're so scripted that everybody talks very low. They talk very slow so you can understand them. No one can be themselves, okay? Which is why characters that are being developed in the WWE, I don't believe are going to be mainstay. Aside from the ones like The Rock, like Steve Austin, like John Cena. But the other characters, which are legit the ones that are going to be carrying the company, once these big names go away, you're not going to know who they are because of the simple fact that it's so overproduced that you don't know what they can do. You don't understand how they can be. A good example of that in AEW, managed by Tully Blanchard, you have what's his name, Sean Spears. This was the perfect 10 in WWE, and the perfect 10 was getting by in WWE. It was like, oh yeah, he's okay, he's a mid-carder, blah blah blah, whatever. And then you see him in AEW, and you're like, this guy can work. This guy can command attention because it's not just the wrestling; it's whether or not you're going to remember who that person is, you know, and that can't be gone through based on a gimmick. That has to be on them. I mean,
but you want to know something? But you bring up a good point here. You say a guy who can work and a guy who was a mid-carder in the WWE comes to AEW, has a grand entrance, has a manager, but then they have him do something stupid by taking 2 Stone Cold Stunners by a referee and then the owner of the company in a dark match, which totally blows his persona as being this tough son of a bitch and makes Tully Blanchard looked like a total idiot.
Yeah. Well, if you know, I don't know if you watched last week, but I didn't watch this week. But last week, Blanchard was abducted by Joey Janela. Now,
I heard about it.
It was very quick. You didn't see it. Like it was like the lights go out and the lights come back on, and there's Tully Blanchard very loosely tied to a chair with a gag on him, and it's Joey Janela starting a fight with Sean Spears. And I'm thinking to myself, granted, I understand Blanchard's up there in age at this point, but I do not think you would get Tully Blanchard in that position.
No, you talk about guys trying to make a name for themselves, right? Now, this Joey Janela, this guy was bitching over the past month how he wasn't in the main event, how he didn't get this play, how he worked all his career, how he did this. He gets the chance of a lifetime to be in the ring with the man who's the current man. Not necessarily the champion, but the next hottest commodity, Jon Moxley.
Yeah.
In there. And he looked like a second-rate pug who didn't know how to act and didn't know how to take advantage of opportunity because guys are not groomed for these positions. And he's over there doing this stuff and doing this stuff, trying to be cool.
Yeah.
You had a chance to kick the shit out of the hottest guy. If that was me in that instance, I would have went nose to nose with him. I would have hit him and been on him.
Right.
And I would have maybe I would have put him over. You don't know wrestling. Sometimes it gets topsy-turvy. But the point is, I would have made my presence known the way, hey, this is a tough son of a bitch. This guy brought it to Jon Moxley. What a 50-50 match. Jon Moxley just barely got out of there. But if I would have had that chance, there was no playing. And I would have kept going. And I probably would have had a better match the next week where you go over and you get the riches of your hard work from the week before, because now they have to push you because you just took their top guy to the limit.
Right.
This weekend and you look like a schmuck. And that's what I don't get. Guys are not groomed today for these moments. And the whole AEW roster, right, except for Jericho, maybe, a couple of sprinkles. Guys are not groomed. That's why they don't know how to act in these positions.
Right. I mean, I worked Joey Janela probably about 10 years ago. And, I knew he was going to go somewhere because he kind of wanted to take control. I mean, granted, a lot of guys in this business, if they're half decent at what they do, and this is all they do, they have that persona about them. They're like, hey, let me do this. Let me show you what to do, and we'll get us through this and blah blah blah. And he was a young kid. He's younger than me, obviously, but I worked him a little bit, and he was good. But I was like, he wasn't anything crazy. And then when I saw him in AEW, and I'm there with my kids, and I said, oh, I worked him before, and it's that rare occasion for me because I didn't wrestle that long. But it was one of those things where I was like, I can't get behind him, and not because of any other. I don't have any personal grudge against him or anything like that. I really don't know him like that, but it's just this bad boy Joey Janela persona. It just doesn't do it for me, and I don't know if it's because of my age. Because I said this before in the show, when I was young, and I was looking up to all these guys like Bret Hart and Kurt Hennig and Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior. These are all guys that were older than me. These were father age figures. I was a child; they were adults, and so it kind of commanded respect in that sense. Forget about the fact that they were able to do what they want and actually get from A to B based on their own talent. Forget about that for a second. To watch a young kid now, it's hard for me to respect them, even if the respect should be there based on what their talent is, because they're younger than me, because they're not, I'm thinking to myself, you're a kid, I got 20 years on you, blah, 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 very few guys in that position actually command my respect. And like I said, I don't want to sound like I don't like think any of these guys are real good or not good or whatever. But it's like when you're not able to be yourself and come across with your own character, I can see the script. I can see where this gimmick's going, and I'm like, you know what? I realize kayfabe's out the door, but let's try, just for the hell of it, to maintain some kayfabe so that we can actually have something of a wrestling show rather than a circus act. Because that's
Well, Dan, you make a good point. Like everybody out there, I'm going to tell you, everybody thinks me and Dan have been friends for maybe 30 years. But Dan being a wrestling fan, and I'm talking, and I'm not making fun of him, I'm just saying how you get to know a person. Dan being in the wrestling business from the outside, he used to watch me on TV with the Mamalukes and used to do my stuff in WCW, right? So, like what Dan was just saying, he had a respect for my work. And he said, that guy. And I don't know if Dan used to watch ECW and see my ECW stuff, but I would say WCW. And then I'd say after the WWE, when I started to do an independent scene, that's when I became friends with Dan. And I think you were friends with my wife before that.
slightly longer. Yeah, just slightly longer.
Okay. So, I mean, so there's the comparison you want to make, guys, how to have respect for people for their work and then getting to know them and saying, okay, now I wrestled in the era where there were the Monday Night Raws, there was the ECW, there was the 90s, the Attitude Era. There was all that great stuff, and I wrestled right along with it. So I have the understanding of what everybody's talking about, what they want to see. Dan, being an astute wrestling person who understands the psychology of wrestling and would like to see that brand come back. But the wrestlers today don't have the experience to portray that. And that's the problem we have.
And you know what the big part of that is? And granted, hopefully the next couple of years, this can turn around. Understand, since 2003, we've only had the WWE.
Right.
So now, anybody coming into this business in the last 12, 13, 15 years is only being taught one way. Okay? People in the indies were not getting their just due until recently. Last, 5 years maybe. Okay? So unless you went through the plant and unless you were taught exactly the way they want it, you weren't working it. Okay? So that's why Brock Lesnar, well, no, I want to use Brock Lesnar because Brock Lesnar doesn't talk. But if I'll take Braun Strowman, I'll take Roman Reigns, and I'll take Fandango. All right, it really doesn't matter. You listen to any one of their promos, they're exactly the same. They're not necessarily saying the same thing, but the way they're talking is very pronounced. It's very generic, very monotone. And the WWE, how they portray faces and heels, is very much like an 8-year-old on a playground being a bully. And the faces respond in such like an 8-year-old being bullied and fighting back. It doesn't seem like men to me. Okay. Where they finally broke that mold a little bit was going back last year when Kevin Owens had this big blow up on the microphone against Shane McMahon.
Who the hell
and he was able to not necessarily go off script, but he wasn't pausing. He wasn't being monotone. He was just flipping out. And I said, this is what promos used to be like. You know what I mean? You're in a grown man now. Granted, now you're in your 50s, but say when you were in your 40s, early 40s in WCW, if I picked you off, you aren't going to sit there and say, "Listen, Way Cool Jr." Blah blah. Nobody talks like that. You're emotional, and you're in a position where you can do something about it. That's the key that people don't remember. you're in a position to do something about it. If you want to fight me, you get the contract signed, you can fight me. So you're not going to be calm. You're not going to be collected. You're not going to be like Dick Dastardly twirling your mustache. You know what I mean? You're going to be a man angry and trying to get a point across in some way, shape, or form. That we don't get. Now, you kind of switch me over in gears to the NWA Power, which is their studio show. I know you said you haven't had a chance to view it as of yet. But what a throwback to studio wrestling. And people who don't know studio wrestling, I don't know if you're going to understand this or whatever. But
the best comparison, Dan, the best comparison would be USWA Memphis, because I wrestled in the studio there.
Yes.
Okay, that's the best comparison. We have studio wrestling. Everybody knows Jerry Lawler, USWA.
Yes.
You talk about your I don't actually watch the NWA per se, but I do catch the promos. I see Nick Aldis, I see Dave Storm, I see Kennedy, and these are guys who have done it, and now they're on a smaller scale. And I think when you bring it in a smaller scale, these guys become larger than life because they're big stars in a small place, big fish in a small pond.
Oh, yeah.
Come across a lot better than trying to do it in front of millions and millions. Maybe they have thousands and thousands, which is good because it is a studio show. It is something they have in a smaller place, bringing it, scaling down. Not to knock the NWA. It's a very prestigious and honorable promotion that's been around for a very long time. They're trying to bring it back to prominence.
Yes.
So with Nick Aldis being there and being a very defined and distinguished champion, trying to bring a gentleman's look to it, I think it across very powerfully.
Well, let me tell you something. I mean, he is one of the most respectable looking talents in professional wrestling. He's taken to the world title role and is elevated to here. If that NWA title, the Old Charlotte as they call it, was to be this prestigious thing, when I tell you he honors that in the best possible way I can think of, I can't say anything different. I gave him the biggest compliment you can give any professional wrestler, and I said, you are horseman material. Any professional wrestler or any professional wrestling fan would know if you're going to give somebody a huge compliment in this business, you tell them they can be a horseman. Legit.
Okay. Now, being that we made this comparison, now we're going to talk about talent and the level. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Aldis, right? Good body, good look, right? He was in TNA. They tried to push him as a main event guy. It did not work.
Right.
Ask why he never made the WWE, because he would be either bottom or mid card at best.
Yes.
He just doesn't have that it factor to be a WWE superstar, but he has the it factor to be NWA heavyweight champion, and he does a very good job of it. Because in the right place for his talent and skill level. This talks nothing bad about him, but talking from a professional guy who has been to every place and has looked at talent from the bottom to the top. You could tell this guy fits where he is. If you take him out of this, you're not going to see any greatness from him. You're just going to see mediocrity.
Right.
I even think if you put him in the NXT, he would fit there.
Yeah.
Because his...
You know why that is, though? You know why that is? Because now you bring up NXT versus like Raw or SmackDown as an example. And then he does really well in NWA. He did not do well in Impact Wrestling. The reason why, I'll tell you that right now, if you look at it right now, take yourself out of the business, Impact Wrestling at a much lower scale, even when he was there, was trying to do sports entertainment. They were not trying to put on a wrestling show. They were trying to do sports entertainment. He shines as a professional wrestler. He does not shine as an actor. That's what it comes down to. And I think literally guys like Dwayne Johnson, who are so much larger in life, of course can do sports entertainment because it's tailor-made for them. But guys who are wrestling, that you want to see a wrestling clinic, they're not going to last in the WWE because those fans who I affectionately call the sheep because they're led to slaughter, those fans only know one thing, and they know this. They know a lot of this, a lot of lip service. They can give two shits whether you have a match that night or not, honestly. And I know guys are going to stop watching WWE because of it. They're like, I can't even watch wrestling anymore because there's nothing on. So they do.
Now, here's where we're going to make a comparison. We're going to switch gears, okay? Since you brought up Impact, now we just covered NWA. We gave it a good scale. Now we're going to jump to the Impact Zone, okay? Two-piece Impact Zone. Dan and I had a conversation about a world title match. And where do you go from here? The intergender match, okay? Now, I am not a fan of intergender matches.
Right.
I'm not saying that women are any lower than men. I think you keep the women in the women division and the men in the men division. You know, it's a kind of a hard mix to mix both because of social media and the agenda. I mean, the agenda of the world on how women are perceived and how they're treated. Yes, they want to be treated equal, but then they have other things that go along with it.
Right.
But when it comes to wrestling, and you look at the world title match that went on Impact, you have a good-looking girl in Tesa Blanchard, who's a fine wrestler.
Yes.
Then you have Sami Callihan. Now, I'm not a Sami Callihan fan,
right,
and I really wasn't a Tesa Blanchard fan, not per se because I don't follow her, and like I say, okay, I want to see her in the mix.
Right.
Her going toe-to-toe with a man who's the world champion of the Impact Zone and giving him a run for the money.
Yes.
What does that say about the champion of the Impact Zone going with a female? It lessens him to be taken seriously when he's going to go fight a 300-pound monster. Say if Sid Vicious showed up tomorrow at the Impact Zone and he's going to destroy Sami Callihan, there's no way. But it gives the ups to Tesa Blanchard, and I made this point to Dan. She should never lose a female against female match as long as she lives and she's fighting a man who's a world champion.
Yeah. And you know what, too? Leading up to that, and let me tell you, let me start off by this is no knock, and you said it too. This is no knock on Tesa Blanchard. I will tell you now, and this is what really impresses me about her because of her lack of time in the business. I think she's only about 3-4 years in the business. But that woman, now granted, there's other factors involved. Her father's Tully Blanchard. Her stepfather's Magnum TA. Her pseudo-uncle's Arn Anderson. This woman's coming from lineage, okay?
Groom, guys, this is what you call grooming. Go ahead.
Yeah. Now, she can go. And I'm not going to say she can go just because she can go. Very few women, and watch any wrestling, very few women can actually wrestle to the caliber that you see the dominant male species wrestle at. Okay? And I'll give you a case in point. Someone who was very popular, someone who the fans love, Velvet Sky. Okay? Velvet Sky cannot clothesline. She looks like she's going to break her arm and take her shoulder out. Velvet Sky cannot go off the ropes at all. When you throw her into the ropes, she looks like it's like the ropes are going to hurt her more than she's going to bounce into them. Okay. Velvet Sky cannot throw a punch. Okay. Now, these are basic things that maybe you take for granted when you're watching wrestling, but to be able to run the ropes properly, to be able to clothesline somebody, okay, without maybe possibly taking your whole shoulder out when you're going to do it, okay, that's fundamentals, okay. The first night, and I'm sure the first night you did, when you started training for the first time, what did they have you do the first time in the ring?
Learn how to bump.
Learn how to bump. I did 200 back bumps my first night. Got whiplash because I didn't know how to do a bump right until I did. When I couldn't move my neck for about 3-4 days, I learned how to do a back bump because it's fundamentals. You got to learn this shit to do this job. You know what I mean?
The way you had to learn wrestling back then, for guys like, Dan talking about everybody comes from a different place.
Yeah.
You can't wrestle from the bottom up and you can't get up, you can't wrestle. So what did you learn how to do? You learn how to amateur wrestle and learn your basics. Basic holds, basic, sit-ups, basic ups, basic mat wrestling, where you learn from the bottom to the top.
And let me tell you something too. And I actually had this argument with one of my guys on the show. And I don't mind saying it, Mark Lindsay, I love him to death. He's my analyst and he's great, but he didn't understand what I said. There is a logic that has to be followed in wrestling. Okay. It maintains kayfabe in a sense, but if I'm putting a simple hold on you, what does that hold do? How does that hold affect you? How can I maintain that hold? These are things that are, once again, fundamental, right? But if I can't, in real life, let's say that word, put this hold on you, and it would legit hurt you or maintain you or whatever, then it's not going to come off right in kayfabe.
Now,
okay?
I'm going to give you a perfect example of what's real and what's not real. The one pet peeve I have is when you put somebody in a headlock and the guy slips out. He says, "Oh, I got out of that." "Oh, really? Okay, let's do a headlock." Okay, now there's a difference between somebody doing a headlock and Big Vito doing a headlock and working the hold and keeping you in that hold. Now, when I put you in the headlock first from a lockup, not just going to just do, I'm going to put you in a lockup to a headlock. Now I sink it in, and there's a proper way to do it. And then if I think you're trying to slip out, I'm going to crank it. And if you try to slip out and do the back door, I'm going to crank it some more. Then I'm going to take you over. Then I'm going to lean on you. Then I'm going to put all my weight on top of you. Then I'm not going to make you breathe.
And you know why you do that? Because if you didn't, then it would look like you knew it was happening in the first place and you were letting it happen.
Exactly. Because what people forget is when you put somebody in a hold, you are in control.
Yes.
And if I can't control you in a hold, then you need to pack up your stuff and go home.
Now we want to talk about fundamentals, and you sent this to me, and I want to put it up here. Okay. It's going to be hard to see it first. I'm going to try and this is Dustin Rhodes and a member of the Dark Order.
There it is.
Look at those punches. Now, I hope you could see this.
I could see it, so the fans can get the gist of it. It stopped, Dan.
Look at this. Look at that. That mat must be hurting right now because that mat took a lot of punishment, and Dustin Rhodes did not in that scenario.
Now, guys, we just touched on the impact zone and what Tesa Blanchard, and like I said, Dan and I are not knocking.
No. Yeah, let me get back to that. She definitely my point was because we got into that tangent, but my point being that Tesa Blanchard can throw a punch. Tesa Blanchard can go. If you see the most recent video where she was having it out with him in the backstage, that was a legit looking fight. It really, really was. To her effort, to his effort, it was a legit fight. But you made a very good point in saying, not for nothing, he outweighs her by about 100 pounds. Okay. Your wife made a point of saying this is the wrong statement we want to make because you're promoting beating of women. Okay. And she's right.
Domestic violence.
It really is. And she's correct. And then I said, well, here's the counterpoint to that because it's a double-edged sword. If we are to make the gender line blurred, okay, because we want to make sure that the women are as equal to men, Those backstage fights are going to happen in real life because there's a woman who's going to get pissed off at a guy and they're going to go at it. Okay. So if they're going to be able to wrestle for titles, they got to be able to fight as well. So it's that double-edged sword. Then your counterpoint, which was absolutely correct, was if he can't handle Tesa Blanchard, no knock on her, how is he going to handle Brian Cage? Okay.
I'm going to say this, and I'm sure nobody has come up with this scenario, but I think Sami Callihan is a transitional champion, and they're going to put it on somebody, and it's going to be quick. It's going to be dominating as soon as they find that person and get him out of the box. Now, what do you do with Sami Callihan after he got, had a heart attack, a woman, got beat up by a guy, but now where do you go with him?
Well, you know what? You make a good point. Like Brian Cage being the world champion wasn't really unlike Andre the Giant being a world champion, because in reality, who was going to beat him? Who in that company was going to beat Brian Cage? Brian Cage is the size of a house, okay? You were not going to beat him. Everybody else in that company is X division size, okay? Except for Brian Cage, who's 3 times the size of them. Nobody would beat him. Now, going back to Tesa Blanchard for a second, and understand, I am her #1 fan. I love that woman. I love that woman to all hell and high water.
I know. I see your Facebook. I get it.
Oh yeah, but but when she beat Brian Cage, the first thing I said was, "Get the fuck out of here!" What? How did this happen? Like, this would never happen, especially the way she did it too. There's no way she would be able to hold him down. I wrestled, folks, and there's no way I could probably hold his leg up to try and pin him. That's how big this guy is, okay? And so, getting back to what you just said, you have an unstoppable champion, okay? Where do you go from there? You got to make him lose it somehow. So, yeah, you have a transitional champion, in this case, Sami Callihan, because whether you like him or not, and I know you personally are not into him and blah, 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 but whether you like him or not, he is a great heel. He is a great heel.
He is a good heel.
And not to get off on the subject, but I want to ask you this question and then to get back into my statement. I think he's 20 years too late because I think he would have been great in ECW.
Could have been.
His character.
But you know what? When you watch him wrestle,
well, yeah.
I'm just not sold on him wrestling. Then, from the way his body was and the way the kind of shape he was in NXT, and now the way he's carrying himself, especially as a world champion, and then you got to have a certain look. You got to have a certain, he's got the heel down persona.
Oh yeah.
He does got that, but then I think he misses it with the body, the conditioning, and the other stuff. Because, like I said, where do you go with him from here with fighting a woman?
Yeah.
Not believable.
And now getting back into that scenario, not only is he a transitional champion because they had to get it off of Brian Cage, it was going to get boring. It was just going to get boring with Brian Cage never getting beat. Okay. But they have nobody. In Impact Wrestling, they have nobody who is worthy of holding that world title. Okay. The only guy I will tell you right now that I believe would be worthy of holding the title in there is Michael Elgin. Because Michael Elgin impresses the hell out of me. When he was ROH champion, I was like, this guy is great. And
okay, but why? But here's the question. If you have nobody to put the title on, right, and you have nobody to uphold it, why would you put it up against a female wrestler like Tesa Blanchard?
You know why? It's like a magician. You know when a magician says, look at this hand so I can do something with this hand? That's exactly what it is. I think that's exactly what it is. Impact Wrestling has nothing right now. They really and I'm a fan of Impact Wrestling. And Mark and I get into fights, and I say, listen, I'm sticking it out with them through thick. It's like a marriage, through better, through worse, right? And that's and it's been worse. It's been really bad. But I think they have nothing. Creatively, they have nothing. They did a show about 2 weeks ago where, because they're based in Canada, that they did some kind of a retro 80s show. And I think they were portraying classic characters from Canadian wrestling, like maybe
Right.
Calgary or Stampede Wrestling, something like that. And as a US fan, if I wasn't able to see that kind of stuff, I wasn't getting the references. Right. And so to me, it was a fun show, but it seemed very circus to me because now you have your world champion portraying a manager of some sort, this other guy, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. And it showed the dynamic of these people taking on different characters, but now you're showing them as actors. You're not showing them as professional wrestlers. Okay. And it was just a very boring show because I'm like, I don't get the references. I don't know who these people are that they're trying to portray. But I don't think creatively they have anything, which is why they did a show like that to try and keep you interested, keep you tuning in. What happened when things would get low? They made China the Intercontinental Champion. In WCW, at the very end, what did they do? They made Medusa the Cruiserweight Champion. Why? Because of shock value. Oh my God, a woman won the man's title. You know what I mean? But that only goes so far. It's a shock value. She drops the title, and then you don't touch it again. You know what I mean? And how about it? They never did anything like that after China in WWE. They never did anything.
But there was no female like that can uphold it.
Nope.
Nobody believable enough to make it that she was a big woman. She had a man's body. So, okay, maybe the right scenario, the right kind of person to put her over, the right this, the right that, you could believe it.
Right.
In this situation, thumbs down, guys. Thumbs down. Saying that, let's jump over to AEW into the clip that you just saw about believable and what's good and what's not good.
Right.
Everybody wanted the different concept of AEW.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wanted to see all the flippy guys. You got it. Everybody wanted to be a star and everybody wanted to do the thing. You got it. The boys are going to do all the producing and you don't need a head writer and you're going to do everything yourself. You got it. And what is your view of the product? It is not very good, except for maybe a couple of spots on the show. Every match is a flip, 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 run, 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 flip, flop, flip, flop, flip, flop. Nobody sells nothing. So how are you supposed to do anything?
Yeah.
That's the concept everybody wanted. Now you're getting it. It ain't drawing 2 million. It ain't
spot monkey wrestling, right? And granted, I'll say this: AEW, and granted, it's got to be the town. You can't just say AEW; it's the actual people doing it. But like guys like the Young Bucks, who can fluently do a spot monkey match without it looking expected. That's the difference. If you ever watch indie shows with really good spot monkey wrestlers, right? And I'm not trying to say that to be like a rude comment, but that's what it is, you know. They tend to look like I'm waiting for it. All right, I'm gonna push you, G. Boom.
Right.
I'm ready for you. Come on, give it to me now.
Guys standing there without selling. You know why, guys? Because nobody's selling the prior move to set up for the. Nobody thinks to move ahead. I've always said this. Think 2 moves ahead. If you're gonna hit me, I'm rolling out the ring. I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at you from here. I have peripheral vision. I see what's coming. Oh my God, here you come.
Right.
Nobody does that.
No.
Everybody's like this.
No, it looks like a dance. It looks like a choreographed dance. It really does. And that's why, and a lot of times you'll see these clips of like, oh my God, what an amazing set of moves that happened. Yeah, it was amazing to look at, but it's not wrestling because that guy knew it was coming. This guy knew it was happening. At no time did he catch that guy off guard because each guy you see they're ready. The what makes it flip flop and fly look really awesome is how fast they do it. But that's it. Now there was a match on AEW where I forget who it was actually, and it might have been one of the Young Bucks, They came out and they went to kick the guy, and the guy got out of the way and they kicked the referee. And that referee took the shot. And God bless him, man. He took that shot, he went down, and I said, wow, did that look like that? He nailed it. He took that kick right in his face. You know what I mean? Because let me tell you something. Sometimes you gotta be stiff a little bit and you gotta take a shot. I took a lot of shots. I ain't gonna lie. Okay. They said I'm sorry afterwards, but I got punched in the face a couple times. You know what I mean? That's just what it is. But it looks good when it happens. You know what I mean? Going back to what I just showed you with Dustin Rhodes and the mat getting beat up before Dustin was, that's the whole point of it. But these AEW matches where everybody's going crazy and everybody's doing all these crazy moves, you're absolutely right in saying, like, to what end is it happening? Why can't, like, somebody like the Dawson, like what's his name? The Revival, who I think is one of the best tag teams out there.
And they're making them a comedy team.
Yeah, right? And they are the closest thing we have to Anderson and Blanchard 30 years later. And like you said, they're making them a comedy team. They're not, a lot because WWE doesn't like tag team wrestling. Let's just face it.
And they did the same thing with Gallows and Anderson. They made them a couple of idiots. The only team they did not do it to, and who's probably the best team in the WWE right now, is the Usos. But they saturated us with the Usos for so long, they had to take them off TV because those guys should never lose the titles.
They're John Cena then now. They John Cena them is what they did. They John Cena them is what they did, exactly. And you're right. They are the next best team that they have there is the Usos. Now, there's one team I really like in NXT, and I think they count to the main roster, and I forget who they're called, but they wear almost like roadblock uniforms. Like they're two really big guys. You know what I'm talking about, right? And they're like in black and yellow, and I forget who they are. They're like a destruction crew or so. I forget what they call them. But they're like good. They can move. They look like a tag team. I am not a fan of Big Vito LoGrasso, who's been a singles wrestler for 20 years and has been a world title holder 16 times. And then he teamed up with me, who's been a wrestler for 15 years and held the title 17 times. And now we're together as a tag team. I hate that shit. Okay. You go back to the early 80s, people didn't look like tag teams. You know what I mean? Because everybody was an individual wrestler that just kind of teamed together. You can sit there and say like Rocky Johnson and who was it? Tony Atlas. He was with, right? Now, granted, two black guys. That's the closest they look to each other, but they didn't look like a tag team. They were There you go. But even then, they dressed alike, so they kind of looked like a tag team. But you can sit there and say Tom Zink and Brian Pillman, they didn't look alike at all, and they were a half decent tag team.
Gold Scorpio and Buff Bagwell, American males.
There you go. And it worked well. It worked well in that sense. But now you get guys, I think tag team wrestling is an art form above anything else. This is why the Bucks do so well with what they do. Okay. I don't think the smoke is being blown up their ass that they're one of the greatest tag teams out there. I think showmanship wise, they're great.
But where would the Bucks be in the WWE? They would not. I think they would win. They would be good for a TLC match. They might be good for a cage match, but on an everyday basis, without a specialty, I think them guys, not taking nothing away from them, but just saying the WWE concept of how to handle wrestlers, be so Fandango and Breezango.
Yeah. Well, they would be fighting guys like that, which I think are below what they need anyway. I think their highlight of their career in WWE would be at some point they would put them against the Hardys. I think that would be a highlight, like a fantasy match. I think that's what they would do.
Would they beat the Hardys after they let the Hardys do their thing? I don't know.
I don't think they would. I think they would have a great showing. And then they would lose.
How much they weigh? 180, 190 pounds?
Yeah, about that. Yeah, right. Yeah.
No, but no, I'm not making fun of them. I'm saying they're 180 pounds, 190 pounds, right?
Yeah.
How could you put them in there with guys say now. I mean, I know the tag team scene is not what it used to be when you had the Skyscrapers, you had the Legion of Doom, you had the Undertaker and Kane.
Hell, you can even say the Midnight Express.
Midnight
They still had
Express,
about 60 pounds on them. Yeah.
right? The Steiner brothers.
Yeah.
You're talking men against boys. And today's wrestling, what do you have out there? You don't have any men, you have boys.
And boys. No, it goes back to what I said before. I have trouble respecting these guys because they're old enough to be my sons. First off. And that's a crappy statement, honestly. And I'll admit that. But that's the first thing that comes to me. It's like I'm not looking up to you because I'm older than you. I know more than you in a sense. You know what I mean? So it's like I can't look at you as a hero like I did as a kid fan, looking up to Magnum TA as a 10-year-old kid and saying, "Oh my God, I want to be like Magnum TA."
And just to say this to Dan, like, okay, I live on a golf course, right? And I live in a very nice gated community. There's a lot of older people. Do you know how many wrestling fans there are, that guys who are older than I am, who are still fans and come up to me and say, "I watched you. I'm a big fan." And these are guys who are older than me,
right?
And say that because, like, okay, they remember when wrestling was wrestling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they say, "Okay, Vito, yeah, you were legit. It was a legit time, and you wrestled against like the guys." You know what I mean?
Yes.
Believed it.
Yes.
When you look at wrestling today, they all say the same thing. It's just, you can't believe it, because these old guys, you say, "You know what? If I seen this guy in a bar, or I seen this kid in this place, maybe I still got one good night left in me, and I'd smack the shit out of him, and then, then that would be it." But if you seen Big Vito at 275 walk in a place, and you'd say, no way. I even look at myself back then, and I'm saying, "No, I don't even want to meet him."
Right?
I really don't. I say it all the time. I'm saying I was a scary individual. I was in, not to say I was bad, but I was an ugly looking person who you wouldn't want to meet, and you had a question meeting me because you'd say, "This guy looks like a sick bastard, and I don't want to mess with him. I'd stay away from him." And that's just what it was.
Now, my first interaction with you when I was producing wrestling videos, and we were in the, it was for the Junkyard Dog Memorial card up in Long Island.
Yeah.
And you stood out amongst a lot of people. Now, understand, on this card, we had Bill Eadie was on there. He was on the card. Nikolai Volkov, Tito Santana. There was a couple other big names, and then there was like the local talent stuff, and you were one of the local talent, and you stood out. You stood out because, you didn't look like a student. Okay. You did look mean. It was the Skull Von Crush era back then. And I remember like I take notes of when I was producing video, because I was doing at that show, I was doing the far cam. So I was up and I was doing like the far away shots and stuff like that. But I was taking notes as to who's who and stuff like that. Because understand, folks, when I produced wrestling, this is not to toot my own horn, but a lot of the videos that I shot are what talent used to get into ECW, to get into WWE. They used stuff that I shot to do that. They didn't use my specific stuff, but my stuff was a part of their resume. So I was shooting a lot of videos with.
Just trying to see your old royalties.
Yeah. And I was trying to figure out who to. And, so it's one of those things where I'm like, all right, I know Tito Santana. I know what Bill Eadie can do. What can this guy do? What can that guy do? And you either see people that you're like, this guy's never going to make it out of here. And then you see guys that are like, oh, you know what? This is the one match I'll ever see him in. And then I'm going to see him on TV. And that's the kind of stuff that it was. And then, years later, yourself, Lita, there's somebody else too, I forget who it was. Some of the Samoans as well, like LA Smooth and stuff like that. People made their way to ECW, And I said, hey, I filmed this guy, I filmed that girl, blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing. I knew they were great talents, and look at that, they went somewhere. Now, that's not the thing I did something for them, but like, as a fan first.
See, you did it, but you did the way you did it,
Yeah.
which is a great thing. You got to see it through the camera, and when you're watching through the camera, you could see everything clear as day. And you probably had the best concept of judging talent.
Yeah. Oh, it's the truth.
Anybody on the universe, because you're watching, you're saying, no, 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 yes. But there probably was 10,000 no's and maybe 2 yeses the whole show.
There's a group on Facebook that a lot of us are involved in. It's called and in this corner, right? And it's a closed knit group, and it's a lot of fans, and a good number of them are WWE fans, and a couple of them are workers that I've known for 20, 25 years that I've worked with forever and stuff like that. But when you explain certain things, like when I explain certain things, one of the fans who she laughs, but I would call her a sheep because I'm like, you just like this sports entertainment crap. You don't like wrestling. You're not a wrestling fan. You're a sports entertainment fan. Big difference in the two. And I said, you want to say, oh, Dan, you don't know what you're talking about. I said, this is why I'm saying this. And I give you a specific reason. And she came back and she said, you know what? Not for nothing. Dan is a traditionalist. And Dan remembers and it grew up watching something that was legitimate, okay, versus something that's not now. A lot of us watch it for these fans are watching it for the comedic value. They're watching it for the drama and the story. And oh yeah, by the way, they wrestle too. Okay. I didn't grow up with that. Okay. When Dusty Rhodes had his hand slammed in the door, I thought that shit was absolutely 100% real as a kid. But that's what I grew up with. They ain't slamming doors. Now, you go to WWE, they're hitting people with cars, and it's like, oh, what is he like? Braun Strowman pulled over a tractor trailer or whatever frick it was. No,
he's the world champion. You believe this?
And he's not the world champion, but he can throw over an ambulance.
Now, Dan made a good point, and I'm going to get to the meat and potatoes of this conversation of the WWE. The Bobby Lashley, Lana, and Rusev angle that is going on TV right now.
Yeah.
Okay? Number one in wrestling, you never demoralize and use somebody's family, right? Yeah. When you talk about marriage, that's very sacred. Everybody's got their marriage thing. Not every marriage is perfect. Not everybody's relationship is great. But the one thing is that when you're together with somebody and you're portrayed on TV, everybody knows you're married. You're going home with that person. You could leave in separate cars. You could stay in the same hotel. Mm-hmm. But when you go home to real life and you say, okay, I'm going to be with this person, doesn't it look kind of ridiculous and stupid? Right? Yeah. So unbelievable. And the corniness of what's going on. I came up with the best ending to this whole angle. Would you like to hear it?
I would love to hear it. Yes, please.
Okay. Now, Lana's very extravagant, and this has been going on, and she's messed around with Rusev, and Bobby Lashley has been taking this. But there's a reason they fell out of love. And, there's poor Rusev, and he's trying to fight for his marriage. He figures, hey, you know what? The hell with it, Bobby, good luck. Bobby, after this marriage scenario, however it's going to end, whatever, if it keeps going. But I would say skip the marriage, find Bobby Lashley with some papers. Right? So, damn. Rusev comes along and says, hey, what's going on? Bobby Lashley looks at him and says, nothing. I used to have the same look in my face a long time. Are those her credit card bills? Yeah. And he's going to go, how did you know? Well, hey, listen, Bobby, why don't you come with me? Right? Why don't you come see what life is like? Then you see Rusev going to the singles club. He's got a girl here. He's got a girl here. He's Mr. Party Animal, right? Bobby sees the light, and he starts hanging out with Rusev. Breaks up with Lana, And then you put these guys together to make a powerhouse tag team that wins the title with Lana on the outside.
Yes.
Now you're utilizing both these guys after they beat the shit out of each other, and you leave Lana trying to recruit people to come, and nobody's there.
Right.
And then Lana at the end is consoled by a female wrestler.
There you go.
At the wedding, it's revealed, and you talk about shock value, because I thought this through. They get to the wedding, all of a sudden somebody comes running down the aisle. Bobby Lashley is gay. Blows everybody out of the water, and she's flabbergasted. Bobby's like, I love him, I don't love you. And he goes off gay and becomes this gay champion.
Yeah.
That is, want ratings? There you go. WWE, just like send me a CM Punk ice cream bar. I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, there you go. Right, exactly. Maybe a bosom buddy, you know, something like that. But you know what? At the end of the day, and this you bring up a good point though, because like the one thing I really, really hate about wrestling is that you work with somebody and now all of a sudden they're your best friend. Oh, that's her best friend. Oh, that's his best friend. The fuck it's my best friend. I can work with you for 10 years and not say that you're my best friend. Okay. And now I don't have a best friend. I don't believe in that statement. I don't like I think it puts an unwanted stress on people to say, oh, well, I'm this guy's best friend.
We both know somebody who has a lot of best friends over the last 6 years, right?
You know what I mean? Yeah, we do. But you know what I mean? Like I said, oh, it's her best friend. When I watch people in wrestling, and I can go back to Jim Crockett Promotions because they really portrayed this in the best possible light. These guys were there. They're athletes. They're competitors. So their main aspect is to become a champion. Why they want to become a champion? 2 reasons. One is prestige because they're an athlete, and that's the catalyst to why they do this. And 2, to make money because the champion gets paid above anything else. Okay.
Right.
At no time does my personal life get into it, but my personal life to the point of like, oh, you're my best friend. I just showed up in the promotion 6 months. I seem to have the same enemy as you. So, hey, Vito, I'll help you out. I'll back you up. I'll tag with you to go against Sammy Callahan and his goon or whatever. Right? That does not mean we're best friends. Okay? You know, so when they portray that bullshit, okay, it's once again, it's like I'm losing respect again because you're taking away from a person being a professional wrestler and having an admiration to be a champion to I'm just like hanging out and this is what we do. And, oh yeah, by the way, we get paid. So let's not talk about it, but that's, you know, that's the coup de grace of everything. We get paid to do what we love. Get the hell out of here. You do it for a reason. Let me tell you something. I love wrestling. I would get in the ring tomorrow if I could. But let me tell you something. I paid for it every match that I was in. I'm sure you did too. You had thousands of more matches than I did. Thousands more. All right. You still feel that problem every time you get up. Okay. And you, at a 50-some-year-old man, are in a lot better shape than some people I see at the same age that were in the business.
If you could see me work out still today, and you'd say, and I get asked all the time,
yeah,
look at your face, look at you, you're in good shape, your face looks good, everything looks good. Why don't you wrestle? It's not the same. And like I said, do you have some things that you have to overcome physically?
Sure.
Overcome them, not totally, but if I had to, my life depended on it, could I rev it up and say, okay, I'm going to give one more run, I'm going to go do this. But there's no positive ending at the end of it because I did everything.
No.
I think we had this conversation many years ago about where do you go from here after you've done everything in wrestling and been to every company?
Right.
What do you do? It's a hard question. So now my life has gone like this. And then you say, okay, fine. I say, okay, I'm going to get married. I still have the wrestling bug. Dan's a personal friend of mine. So he says, okay, what will make Vito, stop wrestling. Something dramatic has to happen. My wife got sick on the wedding day.
Right.
So I made a promise to her, and I said, okay, I still had bookings, and I still was wrestling full. Do I go wrestle, or do I stay home and take care of my wife?
Right.
Life-changing thing right there.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed to take care of my wife. 5 years, and 5 years, I'm still taking care of my wife.
And you know what the funny thing is? Not the funny thing, but you know, here's an interesting concept. Taking that exact situation, there are wrestlers out there, professional wrestlers out there, if they were put in the same position that you were in and had made the same decision that you did, okay? Whereas you look at it as this is the way God put me. You know, I mean, this is the direction I got put in. They would be looking at their wife with contempt in a sad way, not to say up front, but in the back of their mind, they'd be like, you know what, not for nothing. If it wasn't for you, I would still be wrestling, you know? And that's the sad thing. And it's because this business is very addictive. It really, really is a very addictive thing because you get to be something that you're not in most cases, okay? Not that you need to be like you're not a tough guy or something like that, but you are not Skull Von Crush. You know what I mean? Like I played a heel. My friends, and you're my personal friend, my friends know I am one of the nicest guys that you will ever come across. And I will give you the shirt off my back tomorrow. But as a heel, I would spit in your face. I mean, you know, that's what the character was. Okay. And this business allows you to, in a way, live out a daydream of something different. Okay. And that's an addictive thing more than any kind of drug, more than any kind of alcohol, more than sex or anything like that. This is something where it's like, hey, you know, behind closed doors, I'm Dan. This is it. This is that. Boom, 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 boom. But when I walk out there, I'm somebody else. I'm somebody different. And that
15 minutes of fame, right? They just
and you got guys like, and God bless them, you got guys like Terry Funk, and you got guys like Ric Flair, who that 15 minutes of fame turned into 30 minutes, turned into 45 minutes. And in a sense, and not to say that they're 15 minutes of fame people. I'm not saying that at all. But do you understand, they to the point of saying, you know what, I'm going to die in the ring. That's what's going to happen. I'm going to die in the wrestling ring because they can't get over it.
But you know what, Dan? And there are guys out there today.
Yes.
And I'm not saying nothing bad about it because everybody chooses their path in life, but there are guys out there who still depend on wrestling to pay their bills, and it's the only thing they want to know or the only thing they will know. Rock and Roll Express is still doing it. They make a living. They do their thing, right? Nick Wolf was still wrestling until he passed away.
Yeah.
There are a number of guys who were still wrestling when they passed away. And you say, okay, when is it going to stop? Bill Eadie, I just seen Bill Eadie last year. And he was still going to wrestling shows, still and he was still getting in the ring.
Yeah.
70 years old.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about, I'll even mention somebody right now who's very famous and very into the podcasting, Vince Russo, okay? My buddy. I talk to him all the time. What's the one thing he hates? He hates wrestling. Why? No, but he hates wrestling, but this has become his job, not his job of choice, but this is the way he's paying his bills. You can sit behind a desk and podcast and do all this karaoke for bits and do this and sit there during these horrible wrestling matches. Yeah, and you couldn't do it. And I know I couldn't do it because I couldn't stand to do it. And I had an opportunity to have this. I have a brand, just like Dan has a brand. And my wife tells me all the time, you put the time into it. But it's not my lifestyle. It's not what I want to do. I'd rather be out there in the sunshine by the pool, at the golf course, at the country club, enjoying my life, instead of doing this 24/7. You think, okay, Dan is a hardworking man. Dan works 3 jobs.
I do.
Work 3 jobs, or would he like to sit home and make $1,000 a week doing this? I think he'd like to sit home $1,000 a week doing this.
I think so.
Yeah.
You know, and let me tell you something. Like, and I do this on the time that I'm not working. Okay. And this is not the only show I do. Okay.
Right.
I have 4 other shows that I'm physically on and I'm producing. I have one other show that I just get up there, which is somebody else does it, thank God. And then I have another show that I'm producing, but I'm not on. Okay. And I got another show that I'm producing, I'm on, but I'm trying to get off. Meanwhile, I'm working 3 jobs and I'm maintaining I'm a husband and I'm a father to 2 lovely teenage girls. And, you know, and I'm still awake. Okay. You know, on top of everything else, I'm still awake. He knows
Yeah.
one of my jobs, I work nights, I work for UPS. So I've been working for the last 3 weeks, 16 hours a day. Straight up. 16 hours a day for the last 3 weeks. I'm getting up for work in the same day that I'm coming home from work. Okay. Try that for a second. You know,
You've been doing it for a lot of years. I give it to you, man.
Yeah. But then we do this. And you know why we do this? Just like you said, because this takes me away from that. Okay. I love this business more than anything I've ever loved in my life. I've been watching it since I was 5 years old. Okay. And I'm 45 years old now. I'll be 46 in June. Okay. I to this day love it. I look for the good and bad. I never sat there and said, "Oh, I used to watch wrestling. I don't watch it anymore." I watch the good, the bad, the ugly because I'm about this business. And when I had the opportunity to be in the ring and I had the opportunity to do this stuff, I was like, here's level number 2 because now I know why I love this. Okay. And it helps me to do this show. All right. It helps me to be a writer because I've done writing for promotions and stuff like that. I've done production. I do promo production for companies before. And like a lot of people are like, why? I've never seen Dan wrestle. Why is he so big? Why does he know all these people? Because I've been doing this for a long time. Okay. And I'm not a mark. Okay. And no offense to any marks that are out there. Hey, you're a fan. Okay, go ahead. You know, I'm a fan. We're all fans. At one point, you were a fan. That's why you got into the thing. You didn't pick it up and say, "Oh, well, I didn't get that job at the restaurant, so let me go do this." You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
I kind of ran away from the family business.
I know, which was a restaurant, right? so you know, it is what it is. I mean, your wife was fanboy extraordinaire, and she got into the business, and she did it for as long as she could. God bless her. And what did she do when she couldn't do that? This is the next outlet she does, and she does a wonderful job producing these shows for the Big Vito brand. And you know, it is what it is. I do this. I got a great support staff in Mark Lindsay and Charles Gregory and LeGrand Jackson, Matt Stunner on my other shows, and I got all the guys from the DJ show. And you know, understand to be in professional wrestling, to be a professional disc jockey, to be a producer of other stuff, and have all these different interests, and try and make it not sound like the same show, folks. I'm not looking for a pat on the back, but I'll do a little Barry Horowitz right now. Okay, you know, because I'm like, it's.
And make sure you put yourself on Facebook and say you're going to the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. Stop. I know. Well, he should be. I think he should be. Don't you think he should be? Barry Horowitz? Come on.
I don't know, Dan. The world is funny.
Should Mike Sharp be in there before him?
What?
Should Mike Sharp be in there before him?
I hope so. Mike Sharp was a good wrestler.
He was. He really was.
I remember the one time I used to go to Mike Sharp's school, and I tagged with Mike Sharp on Monday Night Raw from the convention center.
Yes.
It was Mike Sharp against High Energy. You talk about doing all those shows back in the day with Tommy Jeanette on the Independence when Mike Sharp was coming out off TV. doing TVs, and I got a chance to wrestle with him. And you look back and you said, wow, you were in the ring with the Rockers and Mike Sharp and this one and that one. You love all the greats. And you say, wow. And like Dan said, when he did that independent show and he said, that guy's got something, but I learned how to be something, the Skull, learned because he did TVs in 91, 92, 93. I stopped doing them because I went to Japan, I went to Puerto Rico, I went to Men, and I did. But if I didn't have that first bit of grooming that everyone lacks today, I don't think I would have been as complete as I was. No doubt.
Right. Oh yeah. And you know what? I mean, it's such a great thing. But you know what? In summary, okay. In summary, I like AEW overall.
Okay.
I really do. I like the wrestling approach. Mark Lindsay says their creative is horrible. And you know what? I think they're not. I think the difference is that he's looking for sports entertainment that's not there. Is that a safe assumption with AEW?
I would say that.
Right now.
I like AEW. I watched Jericho, and then I'm not sure the guy who does it, but I think one of my favorite guys on there is the guy who wrestles with his hands in his pockets.
Oh, Orange Cassidy.
Now, you talk about being creative. When you've got that kind of athletic ability and you could do those things with your hands in your pockets and land on your feet,
yes.
Yo, man, you got better than any flip out there, any guy who could triple.
And subsequently, what did Daniel Bryan do? But cut his hair and shave his beard so he looks exactly like Orange Cassidy.
I gotta tell you, I like Daniel Bryan without the beard. And
I do too. He's a goofy looking guy, unfortunately.
But
the way God made him.
What?
But if you get a chance, V, you got to watch NWA Power. They just got. They just got done their first season. It's very nostalgic. It is very nostalgic. Their current tag team champions are the Rock and Roll Express at 60. At the 63 apiece. They can still go. Not well, but they can still go, and it's really nostalgic to see them in the NWA with those titles. But they have a lot of cool things, and I want you to watch it though, and I want you to take this statement. Colt Boom Boom Cabana, character wise, is the Dusty Rhodes of this generation. Watch NWA Power, and I'm not talking about Dusty Rhodes, Virgil Reynolds. I'm talking about Dusty Rhodes, the character on television. Colt Cabana, in my mind, is the Dusty Rhodes of this generation. Watch NWA Power, and you tell me if you think anything different when you see
that's a good compliment for somebody.
It is. But I'm seeing that as an old school guy, and I'm telling you. So I think you will like it for the nostalgic purpose alone. That show, and then Impact Wrestling, Tesa Blanchard going for the world title. It's about as transitional as you can get. You had a good point. Where do you go from here? I don't know. I don't know because I don't think it makes sense. It really does not make sense. No offense to any woman out there, but I will tell you this. Tesa Blanchard, ODB, Charlotte Flair. They're my tops of women that can go like a dude.
I would give you that.
And I think that's a compliment to them because most women in this business, unfortunately, cannot go. We haven't seen women go since Wendy Richter.
Yeah, guys, I just, like we said before, women should stick wrestling with women and let them show their greatness. When you put them up against men, it's just a different thing, different vibe.
But learn how to do the move. You don't, just because you are a woman does not mean that you have to move like a woman. I very rarely see a woman put up her fist and punch somebody. Okay. Now, granted, I guess maybe they're not taught that, They go with the forearm shimmies all the time. Like that's their big thing is the forearm shimmy. But Tessa Blanchard could throw a right hand like Bobby Eaton almost. You know what I mean? I mean, when I saw her fight, I'm like, Jesus Christ, I would put my hands up against her. You know what I mean? Like she's a tough bitch. I mean, good for her. You know, but there's very few women that could do that. So it's a compliment to her, and she could run with that, but she's not going to be able to run far because there's not creative anything that can go after that. It would be a shock value only, and I think she's better than that. As a compliment to her, I think not doing it would be in her best interest. That's what I think. You know, as a compliment to her. V, would you please promote what you got going on, please?
All right, guys. If you can catch us on Twitter, the Big Vito Brand, go to our Twitch channel, the Big Vito Brand. Dan might put. I think Dan, you do your own production. If you could put our blog on there where to find us, you guys could do that for us. Guys, just check us out on Facebook. Check out Noelle LoGrasso. She is probably the backbone. She is the backbone of the Big Vito Brand because she knows how to work the computer, and I don't.
She said this.
So, she does, and she does a great job. She produces all our stuff. I just want to say thank you, Dan, for having me on. It's always good to be back.
Absolutely.
You know, give me a call when you want to do something else. I'd be more than happy to come on. Merry Christmas to all the fans out there. And remember, people, you can't only have so many best friends in your life.
You can. Yeah. In fact, don't have any.
I'm sure after this, you're going to go see one of your best friends.
Give yourself open. Give yourself open for everything. Make sure you check out the Big Vito Brand. You can see them on Facebook. You can see them on Twitter. You can see them on what are you on?
We're on Fandango. We're on Alexis. We're on everything.
Yeah, you're on. Yeah, that's right. You're on Alexis, and you're on Twitch. That's what I meant. Twitch.
Subscribe, guys. Subscribe.
I still can't figure it out. I'm trying to get on Twitch, and I just can't do it. So I'm just gonna stick right there. So that's it. But check out their stuff. They got a lot of great stuff on there. They got Spilling the Reality. They got you got a couple different virtues of professional wrestling.
And just so you guys know, I think Dan, you talked to Noelle and you told her you guys are going to be doing a show, and there's a couple shows that are going to be coming up next year, and we're going to have a different vibe for the studio because we've got a bunch of great studio equipment.
Yes.
So Danny J is going to be on the brand along with South Philly Nina is going to make a comeback. You know, so that'll be good for the brand. I know a lot of people miss her, and they like to hear her spiel.
I think we were taken off the show because we were commanding too much attention. You and I.
Yeah, I think so.
You know, because it was a women's show until we got on there, and then it was about us.
But I tell you, then there's one special lady who gives us hot picks. You know what I mean? Just some hot picks, and we're gonna send her that back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
If I can get her off electronic bingo, we'll be good. Well, guys, hit the subscribe button down below. Hit the notification bell. I would like you to leave any comments you have in the comments. It helps with the search engine optimization. Share the channel, and please, like I said, subscribe. I'm trying to get the subscriptions up. And definitely, like I said, check out the Big Vito Brand. That's something that has a lot of great content as well. We love doing these shows together. You can see me on there. You can see them on here doing a lot of great stuff. Until next time, for the big man himself, Big Vito LoGrasso, my name is Danny J. We will see you at the matches. Bye, everybody.
Produced by DJB Productions. Go to www.thatwaycoolwrestlingshow.com.